All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's actually lunchtime. All right. Let me see if I can plug in the microphone here. This is a test. This is a test. It's always a test. Today is a test. It's always a test. Always a test. This is always a test. Me, 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 me. Ooh. Okay. Like and subscribe. That's what the pros say. Actually, subscribe to email on dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. You will get some freebies and extras and things here on Substack. However, everything is on the official URL. Okay. And actually, there's new coupon codes. There's actually new Cyber Monday deals. And you can poke around and find the deals. Or if you subscribe directly, you get those codes right in your email box. All right. Yeah. Now, actually, this is Monday, and I am going live now as a test. This is a test because I haven't been live on Substack in a while. And I'm thinking about getting a new process in place for how to get my recordings on the air. How do I want to actually make life easier for myself? And that's part of how we want to do things here is share our process and share about how to make life easier for ourselves. Because I was just thinking to myself earlier that, this is a business podcast. So I want to be a little bit more inclusive and maybe just a little bit more assumptive about what maybe you are interested in hearing about. So I like to say that this is behind the scenes details. And actually what's going to be happening is when I say behind the scenes details, there are some things I'll say here that maybe don't make it to air, that don't make it to the live stream, don't make it to the actual podcast streaming episodes. By the way, look for the Apple Podcast logos on the Dear Business Coach podcast advertising. The Apple Podcast platform is something I'm looking at in the near future for adding subscription. So I've actually already been into the what you call it, the back office pages to see about adding subscription options to you, dear listener. But you can already get that for free being an email subscriber. So I'm going to continue pushing the email subscription list because I want to make that free. So there's a lot of different ways that you can actually pay for access to content. And if you are a listener, you already know that you can get all that same stuff for free by becoming an email subscriber. And that's directly through the official URL. So yeah, you can get free stuff here on Substack too. Everything's updated on the official Dear Business Coach Podcast.com site. You know what? I did not bring my coffee with me. And so this is when I'm thankful that I have my phone. I can switch between microphones. Hey, Brianna. Dr. Brianna Willie is here. She's coming back on the air soon, so that's really exciting, and I've asked her to bring her professional experience in a different way this time. She's a writer, and I have some questions about sources and how do we know if something's a source? How do I know to use a source? How do I know what sources I can use? So I was actually having a conversation with my partner at home, and this topic came up, and I've been meaning to ask someone about sources, have who wants to talk to me about sources. And I thought of Dr. Brianna Willie. So that's going to be a really, really good episode. We haven't even recorded yet, so I hope I'm not jinxing myself. We have the calendar date. Let's hope we make it to the calendar date and all goes well. But I know it'll be just fine. Actually, speaking of producers' notes, I have had so many reschedules this past month, and that's totally fine for anybody out there who is experiencing that. We all go through it. And what happened was I actually ended up releasing quite a few solo episodes because the Monday live episodes like this one have been really informative and helpful and have been full of information that I want to be able to give you on the air and haven't really done that great of a job of slipping things into the interview episodes. So this is a really great time to talk to you about partners. So let's try that again. Earlier today, I was practicing around with that. Actually, what's new? What's new? You guys have heard about Nord Security. The link is on my deals page. So the deals page actually gives you the access to my link. And so, what does everybody want to know? Everybody wants to know, how do you make money on a podcast? And there are lots of different ways to do it. I tell people I do, the podcast is something I do every day. The podcast is my day job. So here it is. I make money through affiliates and partnerships. So if you want to support the show, use a coupon code or click on a link on my website. And if you're an email subscriber, I put these things in. Update. Now you can get 10 free email issues when you sign up for email at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Discount codes, early access, exclusive content, the magazine, and access to the VIP page, dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Goes. And like I said, you can actually go to my deals page to check out more stuff that you can get great discounts on that are put there for you, that I have partnerships with these brands that I have these partnerships with. All right, so let's keep it moving. I actually have to make sure that I stay on track and on time. And the way to do this is hopefully remember my tools. So let me get back on the microphone. My microphone over here. All right. So yeah, this is interesting recording in the middle of the day. This is different. I usually do this at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So this is actually a special live pop-up live. This is a pop-up live. And let's go ahead and review what's coming up next on the show because I this is also to give you a teaser. Priyanka Mishra will be my next live guest. Priyanka Mishra will be talking about delegating. And it's really funny, Dr. Brianna Willia, if you are listening, I know you are, you actually asked me a question about tasks and delegating and taking care of stuff, right? So I'm doing an episode, I'm doing a live talk with Priyanka Mishra, and that will be coming up on, let's see, what's on the calendar. That's next Monday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. She is going to talk about women in business, women who are figuring out the delegation process. Maybe you already do delegate and you're a cheerleader and you want to be here and support those of us trying to figure it out. And maybe you're questioning what you're spending your time doing and do I want to do that or do I want to pay somebody else to do that? So this starts out for me as a business owner, as a solopreneur. Uh, I don't think that it's fair to think that only executives with giant corporate teams have to think about delegation and how does that contribute to your energy level, the energy level of your team. So let's see here. Well, let me find a sip of tea. I've switched to tea from coffee. I do have to think about my caffeine intake. However, even tea is a little bit tricky too, right? Because herbal teas can upset your stomach if you're drinking too much of it or picking the wrong kind. So I also have to be careful about that. Okay. What are we covering? Back to the notebook. So I was actually sharing with you the discount codes because those were new, and this live producer's notes helps me share with you behind the scenes details about how does the show get paid. And so if that is something that is interesting to my audience members, I'll keep talking about that. One of the things that I did learn recently about Nord Security, who's on our partner list, who's on the deals page at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. This is Nord Security and NordVPN. They actually will give you the pass for their antivirus and malware protection for up to 10 devices, and that is a market leading benefit. I dare you to find another business out there that will actually give you protection on that many devices for your one membership. So that's pretty cool. I learned about that recently. And I get a commission when you purchase the package or purchase the subscription to Nord when you use the link that I give you. So that's the link on dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com/deals. So Priyanka Mishra wants to tell us about how to delegate tasks, and I will keep it short and sweet here as a teaser. I have to tell you that my relationship with social media assistants has changed over the last several months, over the last year. Originally, I actually wanted to hire a social media assistant for a not a project, but a period of time. So a contract of 3 months or so. That's what I was kind of thinking I wanted to do. And I found Fuchsia Talent, and they offered very reasonable rates. I was really happy with the research that I did on their company and background and had a couple meetings with a couple people there. So I got some research done and put my feelers out to their leadership, and I was really impressed. So I thought, okay, let's try it. So I did, and now I'm still using that same social media team. And if you've heard me talk about Meenakshi, she's my social media project manager. And actually, I have done various forms of using her talents. Sometimes I will make a video or make a clip and then ask her to post it. Sometimes I will let her team make a video, and then sometimes I will do kind of like a 50-50 thing. And now I'm going even farther. I want to give more responsibility to her. She already knows how to do everything that I'm asking her to do within the time that she's already working for the show. So I feel like I'm not being a very good boss if I'm not even really utilizing all of her talent. So I want to actually depend on her a little bit more. I used to be, I think, maybe a little nervous about that, but that's comes with time, just getting comfortable with what do I want to do? What do I know that she can do a lot better than I can do. So I enjoy doing marketing, and I also need to be here on the microphone with you. So that's what I'm here to do, is talk to you as a podcaster and let's bring the right guests on, the guests I want to bring on, the guests that you're interested in hearing from. So that brings me to my next point here, behind the scenes producer's notes. What else is Meenakshi working on that you will see that is fun? So I want you to write in your listener questions. So write in your listener questions to Dear Business Coach Podcast at gmail.com. And this can be anything. I also have some topics that I am putting out there on social media posts. I'm thinking of creating a topics board on the website itself. So if you want to poke around dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com, then you can actually see some of the topics that I'm pulling up for upcoming events upcoming episodes. So if you are interested in that, keep a lookout for ways to send in your listener questions. And if you're looking for prompts on like what kinds of questions or what kind of questions, you can look at the topic boards like women in finance, women in media. Those are the two topics that are coming up. I'm advertising for women in media and women in finance to come on the show. So I'm sharing with you now that those are topics that you'll want to maybe think about. Do you want to pose a question on either of those topics? So what questions do you have for my guests coming up who will be speaking in the realm of women in finance and women in media? women in finance, and women in media. Rewriting these notes to myself. Okay. So Priyanka Mishra will be coming on next week to talk about the actual process and gifts of delegating your tasks to other people. All right. Look, now also I just posted two new clips from Dr. Jessica Schlump. Dr. Jessica Schlump is in the financial industry. She's actually the first of my Women in Finance series. Actually, she did not know that when we recorded and when I published her episode, it was not advertised as the beginning episode for the series Women in Finance. In fact, Penny, I think, has joined the live today and several times before. And I think Penny would be considered a woman in finance because she works in the fundraising industry. So you are definitely, Penny, a woman in finance if you'd like to come back on the show for this series. So I'm thinking, anywhere between 4 to 8 episodes is a really good amount of episodes for a mini series buried within the podcast. So the way that we will do this is I already have recorded Dr. Jessica Schlump, and then the next Woman in Finance interview that will come on will be actually will be recorded after Jessica. Her name's Anita. So Anita, if you're out there listening, you'll be episode number 2. And then I am actually advertising for guests to come on for Women in Finance. All right, let me get back on track here. So write in your listener questions to Dear Business Coach Podcast at gmail.com. So the questions that you are writing in for these topics are women in finance and women in media. So you can be a woman who works in finance. You can be a woman who wants to work in finance. You can be a woman in media. You can be a woman who wants to work in media. All right, it's 11:52 a.m. Eastern Time, and yes, Penny, you are. Can I heart this comment right here? I don't know if I can. Actually, that's okay. It is difficult to talk and type at the same time, right? So if I'm doing that, I have to tell you. Yes, Penny, that is you. All right. So basically, when you write in your email, you can attention it to me, you can attention it to Meenakshi, you can actually just write your question in the subject line. You can write in the subject line, question for the show or question for the guest. Any of combinations of those things will work. You can also just write show question in the subject line. So I'm trying to figure out my marketing. How do I want to do this? And I also know that some of the best shows that I follow have ways in place to test this. So a lot of the marketing that goes into big productions has to do with people sitting around all day kind of like testing, how do we get people to write into this show? How do we get people to know that we want them to write into the show? So that's why a lot of promotion goes into episodes that tell you how do you contact the show. So Dear Business Coach Podcast at gmail.com. Write in your questions for guests that I have coming on. And the topics we're focusing on are women in finance and women in media. Do you have questions about breaking into media or finance? Do you have questions about your experience in media or finance? I'm also interested in college students who are networking and building resumes and profiles because the best way, one of the best ways to learn about the industry, in my opinion, is to simply ask people who are in the middle of it, right? Ask people who are learning about the up and coming trends. So it's 11:54 a.m. Eastern Time, and producer's notes is every Monday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Right now, you're listening to a pop up live recording. This is truly a live recording. And what One of the topics that I thought maybe I would bring up to you, I wasn't sure if I was going to, but here we go. What about getting this show critiqued? How do you get your work critiqued? If you are working with clients that you maybe ask for a feedback form from, how do you do that? Is I assume a lot of it's digital. Maybe you have a conversation. How do you get folks to give you feedback? And I find this really challenging, not because I don't want to, but I know that getting someone to respond to feedback at a time when they have not just the memory fresh and the feeling fresh of their time with you, but also what about they actually get the request for feedback in a moment when it makes sense, right? So they can actually have 2 seconds to put out the words and the feelings. However, I cannot be fully responsible for that, right? I want to get a feedback request out to you as soon as possible and just kind of by luck hope that you can see that and utilize it when it makes sense for you. So that's part of what I'm doing with the questions for guests and myself. Let me give you some topics and you can write your questions down. And it's going to be really interesting when I pose a question to a guest that may be tailored for them in their industry, but maybe they didn't know they were going to get that question. So it's, a little bit of trust building on my end to present these questions to the guests, and also you have the right to be anonymous. If you would like to be, an anonymous questioner, you can do that too. You can simply write a question in, and I will keep your email address and your name private, or maybe you want to say, um you want to give me a sign off, right? That would be like from from listener who needs help or something. You can create kind of a pseudo sign off name so that you stay anonymous. So where I'm getting back to having the show critiqued. I started talking about feedback because I also would like to encourage feedback and critiquing from folks who have an interest in the show. And yet also that's tricky because maybe I'm not ready for your feedback. And it occurred to me recently that I got some feedback from two people that I highly respect. I think they're very intelligent people. And after a little bit of feedback, I questioned whether or not I was ready for feedback. And immediately I started thinking to myself about all of the defensive things to think about, the defensive comments that I would have about why do I do the show a certain way? Why is the format of the show unscripted? Why is the format of the show pre determined, not based on a script, but by brainstorming and pre-meeting notes that I've made with the guests. And it's sometimes the way that that comes out is fully unscripted. The episodes may end up in a conversation that wasn't part of the notes or the beginning meeting at all. So that sometimes for some people might feel a little bit unstructured. So I did get that critique recently. And I'm totally fine with that, but it certainly got my ego going. So I'll be interested to see if that person who gave me that feedback hears this particular live recording. We will see. And that's a person that I first of all was impressed. That same person who gave me that critique also said how fantastic of a speaker this person who gave me feedback said that they were really impressed with somebody who was on the show. And I thought the ego in me is a little bit hurt, I guess. That's natural, right? That's what egos do. They get hurt. The ego in me is a little bit hurt by this criticism of the show being um too unstructured, I guess. It would be one way to take it. And then the other way to think of it is, hey, but you were listening. And if you were so impressed with that speaker, something's going right here because you know what? You're right. I love listening to a good speaker. People who have written books often make fantastic speakers. And sometimes people are just good speakers. And a lot of the times those two things go together. So, if you're a good speaker, somebody might ask you to write a book, even if you haven't thought about that. So I find the ins and outs of this highly intriguing, captivating, and rewarding. And Brianna, I appreciate what you're saying. And this is, exactly, let's read your comment right now. People crave the human side. People are tired of super scripted stuff. And you know what? You said it's the best. What is IMHO? Is this I am hanging on? I don't know what that means. Okay. I am a dork. IMHO. In my humble opinion. Thank you. Oh, well, you know what? You are also on the air. You also are a professional. And guess what? Your opinion has a lot of weight, actually. Okay, and it's 12:01. I think that it's been 30 minutes, which means my time is up. You know what? You are a superstar. I love doing these live sessions with you, and I will talk to you next week. Subscribe to email dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Look out for your holiday promotion codes. All right, you're a superstar. Update, update, update. Now you can get 10 free email issues when you sign up for email at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Discount codes, early access, exclusive content, the magazine, and access to the VIP page. Dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com.